Hi friends, my name is Riley, and this is Gianna. We went to the same high school. We were good friends and saw each other all the time. We would go over to each other's house after school. Our families were both well off. We'd go shopping on the weekends and buy gifts for each other. And we went on vacations together. Gianna's family is still very rich. But unfortunately, my dad went bankrupt. He had to sell off everything we owned to pay off his debt. We had a beautiful house. We had to sell it and move to a small apartment instead. Gianna came to visit a week later. As I was showing her the apartment, she was looking around quietly. Finally, she said, "You said the apartment was small, but this is tiny." "I think my room is bigger than this whole place," she said. I noticed the condescending look on her face, but I thought, no way, I must be imagining it. Then she said, "Did you rent this place furnished? Everything looks so old, and nothing matches." That's when I knew I wasn't wrong. She was looking down on me. I never expected this from her. True, we weren't rich anymore, but I was still the same person. What difference did it make for her whether I was rich or poor? In my room, I offered her to sit on the bed. "Let me get us something to drink," I said. Gianna stared at the bed. She brushed off the spot where she was going to sit as if it were dirty.
Ew.
She seemed disgusted. "Are you sure you'll be able to live in a place like this?" "I'd be so mad at my dad if I were you," she said. "Why would I be mad at my dad? He's made sure I've had a great life until now. It would be unfair to blame him for things that weren't his fault. This could happen to anyone. Even you," I said. Gianna said, "I don't understand why you protect your father. Don't get me wrong, but my dad is not a loser like yours. I don't think he'd ever put me in such a situation." This was too much. I said, "Gianna, you better watch what you say. You can't talk about my father like that. He's a really good person." Gianna left soon after this. The next day, I was surprised when she came up to me at school. She said, "Riley, I'm sorry. You're my best friend. I said those things yesterday only because I care about you." I forgave her because I thought she understood her mistake, but I would soon discover that I was wrong, and once again, Gianna would disappoint me. That evening, my mom and I were making dinner in the kitchen. My dad came home. He kissed my mom and me. Those days, he was working 2 jobs. He would leave his day job and come home. He would eat dinner with us. Then he would go to his second job. Both of his jobs were far from home, but really close to each other. I said, "Dad, are you coming all the way home just to eat dinner? Why don't you grab something by your work?" He said, "I'm not coming all the way home just to eat dinner. I'm coming all the way home to eat with you, with my family." Mom said, "Darling, you get so tired. We can get by even if you work just 1 job." And Dad said, looking at me, "I want Riley to go to a good college, so I'm working 1 job for the whole family, and the other one just for my daughter." When we heard him say that, both my mother and I were so moved. The following day, there was a math exam. Gianna came up to me. Her eyes were so puffy because she'd pulled an all-nighter. I felt sorry when I saw her like that. "Your grades are already so good. Why are you pushing yourself so hard?" I asked. Gianna smiled. "I decided to become the valedictorian," she said. "Girl, I can't believe how driven you are. If that happens, you'll have to write a speech and all that. Do you want to do all that?" Gianna was excited. "That's exactly why I want to be the valedictorian. Imagine, I'm making an inspiring speech and thanking my dad, and he is unable to hold back his tears and starts crying. Wouldn't that be amazing?" she said. I could see why Gianna would want to do that. Her parents got divorced when she was a baby. Unfortunately, her mom left Gianna and disappeared. No one knows where she is now. She hated her mom for leaving her. Her dad was her everything. She wanted to make her father proud by graduating as valedictorian and dedicating her speech to him. Since I knew she was capable of doing anything she wanted to, I was sure she would do it. After the exam, Gianna said, "This week was really intense. Let's have a slumber party at my place. I'll invite some friends from my old school, too." "That would be so cool. We can have some fun," I replied. When I went to Gianna's on Saturday, I saw that she'd invited 2 other friends. I'd never met them before. Like we did at every slumber party, we were chatting over milk and cookies before we went to bed. Gianna looked at me and said, "Riley, I know this might upset you, but I want to ask Jasmine and Melissa about this for your sake." I wasn't sure what Gianna was talking about. She turned to the other girls. "Imagine you wake up tomorrow morning and your dad says, 'We've lost all our money. We're moving to a tiny apartment with used furniture.' Would you tell your dad, 'Dear Daddy, that's awesome news. Let's move'? Or would you confront your dad about it?" I was baffled. Why had Gianna brought this up? And why would I talk about my private life with people whom I just met? Before the girls could say anything, I said, "Gianna, you're out of line. Why does this bother you so much?" She said, "Because you need to accept that I'm right. It makes me sad to see you living poor. Your dad's responsible for it, but you can't see it, and you're still protecting him." I jumped up. "Gianna, can you call me a cab? I want to go home," I said. Condescendingly, Gianna said, "Sure, I'll call you a cab, but do you have the money to pay for it?" So I got up and left. Our friendship with Gianna ended that night. Even though I was so sad, there was nothing I could do. She was the one who pushed it this far. After that, we stopped talking. There was a ton of stuff to do for school anyway. We were both studying a lot. As I'd expected, Gianna graduated as valedictorian. We weren't friends anymore, but I was still happy for her. And I was curious about her graduation speech as well. Finally, graduation day had arrived. The ceremony was held in the soccer field at school. We, the students, were on one side, in our caps and gowns. The families were sitting separately. There was a stage and a podium. First, our principal spoke, and then some teachers. Then it was time for the valedictorian address. Gianna's name was announced. She was very distracted as she was receiving her prize. She was looking around all the time, and she did not look happy at all. Gianna went up to the podium to give her address. She was reading the speech she prepared. Just as I had guessed, she started out by mentioning her dad in the first sentence. She said she loved him so much and that she owed all of her success to him. But for some reason, she wasn't passionate at all. It seemed like she just wanted to finish the speech and get off the podium. Suddenly, she stopped talking and tears came pouring out of her eyes. When she started talking again, she wasn't reading from her cards anymore. "I wrote the speech months ago, but I don't want to go on because my father, to whom I dedicated this address, is not here right now. Do you know why? He has an important meeting at work. I told him that today was really important and that he should come no matter what. And he said, 'I'll come to your college graduation. High school is not that important.' When I insisted, he said, 'You don't know it, but this is how money is made. I have to attend this meeting. Don't make a big deal out of this. I will get you an expensive graduation present. But the only graduation present I want is my dad.' And he doesn't realize that. In fact, he never has. My dad always thought the presents he got me were enough." Gianna stormed off the podium after she said this. We were all shocked. I couldn't just sit there, so I went after her. I found her sitting under a tree and crying. I sat down next to her. She looked up. When she saw me, she gave me a hug and began sobbing even harder. "Riley, I was so jealous of your relationship with your father. That's why I wanted you to blame your father, because I was so jealous of how much he loved you and cared for his family. I'm a bad person. I tried to destroy your relationship with your dad." Hearing this from her shocked me, but I still understood her. Gianna was someone who never got any love from either of her parents. That's why it was normal that she was jealous of me. Maybe if I were in her shoes, I would feel the same way. I hugged her. Yes, she had tried to hurt me, but she didn't succeed. Because she couldn't grasp how strong the bond between my father and I is. And no one can destroy this relationship.